Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news as we discuss Manchester United interest in Jude Bellingham, which we've discussed a few times, but there is a bit from Laurie Whitwell to discuss, but also interest in Tammy Abraham as well as a few other bits. Somebody just said Goldbridge is slower at starting streams than Maguire. I don't think that's very nice. I don't think that's very nice at all, to be honest with you. But yes, I hope you're all doing very well. And of course, I feel that this tonight is also the sort of last night of the international break as well. I think from tomorrow, we've certainly got some content going up for you tomorrow in relation to the Manchester derby and stuff. So the build-up starts for that. And obviously some United players are back in training already. So lots going on. Lazy Gamer says Bellingham is off to Liverpool. Well, we've got an update coming from Laurie Whitwell, who is actually pretty good when it comes to Manchester United news. So we're going to be talking about that. Also the interest in Tammy Abraham. Would you take Tammy Abraham at Manchester United? That's an interesting one as well. And an interesting assessment from Jamie Carragher on the Harry Maguire situation, which I think, you know, probably just, I mean, Carragher can be hit and miss, but I think on this he makes quite a good point. So let's take a look at that. But before we get into that, as you can see, we've got the Sneak QR code there next to us and the links in the description. You should know what Sneak is by now. Here's mine. You can get one of these and 9 different sachets to try as part of your starter pack when you use the code SNEAKBRIDGE. What is Sneak? It's sugar-free, low-calorie energy drinks. Blue raspberry, Tropicilla, purple storm, red cherry bomb, electric mango. There's loads of flavours. They do fizzy drinks as well, delivered to your door. Next day delivery with the UK. They do ship worldwide as well. Really nice flavours. 1 scoop goes in, or your sachet, your water. You shake it all about. You get a lovely non-powdery energy drink with some lovely flavours. As I say, delivered to your door. I'm on the cherry bomb. I always have cherry bomb when I do United Stand because it's red and it tastes like cherries, so it's lovely. Links in the description for it. Scan the QR code. Please use the code SNEAKBRIDGE. It really helps us out. If you're into energy drinks or you want to check them out, please do. Sneak energy drinks, very, very nice. Right, let's get a bit of energy in the show. I want to talk about, we'll talk about Bellingham first because it is the first story, but also want to talk about Tammy Abraham tonight. I think it's a really interesting story. It's coming from Italy that Tammy Abraham may be looking to move back to England and that Manchester United would retain an interest in him. Remember, he's still only 24, so we'll talk about him in a bit. 6'3", mobile. I think he's sort of tainted by his time at Chelsea where he didn't really grab the opportunity, but was he given the opportunity? He's certainly done a good job for Mourinho at Roma. But let's talk about Jude Bellingham first. So this is from Laurie Whitwell this morning. Jude Bellingham gave another example last night of why so many clubs have chased him for so long. Manchester United watched him 46 times since the age of 12, reports unanimously positive. We know that United tried to buy him when Solskjaer was here. He visited Carrington, he chose Dortmund. It was the right decision for his career, to be honest. But Laurie Whitwell goes on to say that United expected to try again next summer. Liverpool seen as current front runners. So Manchester United will look and retain interest. Bellingham is going to go to Real Madrid, mates, as Rex. I mean, look, I love that. It's absolutely fine. But you've got absolutely no inside information, Rex. No one's got any inside information that he's going to go to Liverpool or Manchester City or anywhere else. You are just predicting it, and that is absolutely fine. But I don't do that. I don't do the whole he's going to Liverpool in September or Real Madrid or anything like that. So, and whether that's going to be the case or not, it doesn't lessen the fact that Manchester United would like to sign Jude Bellingham. And yeah, it's funny actually, speaking to, some of you may have already seen it, the football fill-in, which I do normally on a Monday, but I did it today. It's on the Ben Foster channel actually, and we're talking about Jude Bellingham. And he asked me where I think he'll go, and I said I think he'll go to Man City. And Ben said that actually he thinks he'd be perfect for Manchester United because his style of play suits Manchester United, and Manchester United are a club that's looking to move up. And if you go into the club and be a player that takes Man United to something, that's got to be more impressive than going to Man City, who've won loads of Premier League titles. But that's not how it always works, as we know. You know, Jack Grealish went to Man City. Many other people have gone there. Welcome to the Members Club, Meldrin. So, look, there was also another story from 442 today that Liverpool are looking to do a January swap deal with Dortmund involving Naby Keita. Now, I think the Bellingham thing is, I do not think Man United are going to sign Jude Bellingham. I've said that before and I'll say it again. I do think that Liverpool, Real Madrid, Man City would be the 3 front runners for him. the interesting thing with this is going to be that he is so good, and he's only 19, and his game suits the Premier League like a glove, and whoever buys him is going to get hold of a player that is without question going to be one of the best midfielders in the world, permitting that he doesn't get a bad injury. So, of course, there's a lot of interest in him, and I think that it'll be very intriguing to see if any club tries to do something before next summer. I think our thumbnail says June bid, and I think that that's logically when people will start bidding for Jude Bellingham in June. June Bellingham, but that's the way transfers normally work. But I think that it's so logical that Dortmund will sell him next summer. And therefore, I think that some clubs probably will try and do things. My belief is Man City will get him because they can give Man City can give Dortmund the money up front without add-ons or instalments. I think Liverpool are very confident about getting this deal done, and they may try and use the connections with Dortmund that they've had in the past with Klopp, etc. But Man City's connections with Dortmund ain't too bad. They've just bought Haaland from there. And Real Madrid are Real Madrid. But I think that Jude Bellingham will go to the Premier League because he could work both ways. He could go to Real Madrid and then come back to the Premier League in his mid-20s. On the other hand, he could go to the Premier League and go to Real Madrid in his mid-20s. So I think he'll come back to the Premier League. What does this mean for Manchester United? What it means for Manchester United is that we would like to sign Jude Bellingham. We would like to sign Jude Bellingham, like most clubs in the Premier League. But I don't think we're in a position... Best thing that can happen for United is that Jude Bellingham and Dortmund just say, we're not considering any offers until the end of next season, May, June time. If that happens, I expect a June bid from Manchester United. If some club like Liverpool or Man City or Real Madrid are going to try and do some sort of pre-agreement deal in January or something like that, then we're out and we've got no chance. And the reason for that, and I said this a few days ago, is because for us to be able to get hold of Jude Bellingham, we've got to be the right project, and the right project has got to be a club on the up with Champions League football, and we won't be able to prove that until April, because that's when you know whether you've got a good chance of Champions League football, and that's whether you know whether you're a club on the up. We won't be able to sign Jude Bellingham if we're in the Europa League again, and I think that's pretty much as we can hope for at the moment. If you're somebody out there that's a United fan that wants us to sign Jude Bellingham, then we need to hope that Dortmund and Bellingham don't want to make their mind up until the summer, and then by that point we need to hope that we are an attractive proposition for him. Was about to support an order from Sneak, but they don't deliver to India, says Amrit. Oh, unfortunate, Amrit. Sorry about that. How much would you accept Maguire to be sold for, says Will Bond. And, well, we can talk about Maguire in a little bit because there was a good quote about him in relation to what Jamie Carragher said. But, yeah, and then the next interesting... I'm going to want to get into more of a Q&A tonight because it is sort of the last night before the international break is over, and then we go into a very hectic time. I don't like the international break. I really, really don't. I was very grateful for the charity game at the weekend and a bit of decorating over last week because it's just kept my mind focused on other things with the lack of football. I can't believe it's going to be 4 weeks this weekend since we last played a Premier League game. But I'm also very aware that the next 5 or 6 weeks is going to be relentless. Previews, press conferences, matches every 3 or 4 days. It's going to be crazy on this channel, and I'm sure most of you will be here watching it. So maybe we should just appreciate these last few days of reflection because it's going to be fast paced, and nothing's going to start that fast pace more than the Manchester derby on Sunday. But I do want to just talk about Tammy Abraham a minute because I really wanted. In fact, I'm going to do a poll on this one. Yes or no? Would you? I suppose just would you sign Tammy Abraham? There we go. Oh, God. Wally. There we go. Tammy Abraham. So get in the live chat if you're watching and give us your poll. If you're not watching, you can just write it in below and give us your thoughts. So Tammy Abraham's currently, I think, 24. He's 6'3". He's averaging about 1 goal every 2 games in Serie A for Roma, which is pretty impressive. He is another player, different path to Jude Bellingham, but he's another player that... is doing very well. He's another player that gets called up by England and doesn't get used. And I think he probably knows that his career is better off in the Premier League because, especially under the current England manager, you just don't really get any praise for playing well in Serie A vouch for. So And also, I think Tammy Abraham's gone abroad and he's shown what he can do. And I think he really wants to have a proper chance in the Premier League. And I think Aston Villa were linked to him before. I think there would be clubs that would look at him. The question is, would Manchester United look at him? And I suppose the more pertinent question is, should Manchester United look at him? Now, the honest answer for me is that my initial reaction would be, what's the difference between Tammy Abraham, Mitrovic, Tony, these sort of strikers? Is there a difference? Is there a differential between those three players? Is Tammy Abraham on a different level to those three players, those other two players? What would his cost be? In some ways, he does tick. And look, the most important thing is whether Erik ten Hag would like to bring Tammy Abraham to Manchester United. But for me, if it was a player that Erik ten Hag wanted to bring to Manchester United, then I would be all over it and very happy about it. I'm not against it, and I'm not massively for it. It's a bit like Ivan Toney, actually. I'm not massively against it, and I'm not massively for it. I suppose this is the avenue we're walking down now, isn't it, with Erik ten Hag? I really am starting to... Well, I've got total backing of the manager, but total backing's a bit different to trust, because trust is built up over... You earn trust, you earn respect. And I think that we're very early into this Ten Hag journey, and God knows what's going to happen on Sunday, but I am starting to be very trustworthy in his player choices. Even when he picked Maguire at the start of the season over Varane, I was like, I can't believe I'm living in a world where Rafael Varane's sitting on the bench for Harry Maguire. And that ultimately turned out to be a mistake, as it did with Shaw and Malacia as well. But I trusted it. I was like, well, this is the manager. This is what he thinks. Let him learn or let him succeed. And I think if he did decide to go for a Tammy Abraham, I would be very supportive of it. And I'd be very excited about it as well, because he's pretty mobile. He's pretty tall. He scores goals. He's pretty much Mourinho's sole number 9 that everything goes through. It's sort of what we need at Manchester United. So the chances of this happening, I wouldn't even do a percentage. I wouldn't even say it's 50-50. I mean, it's a story coming out of Italy. But ultimately, it is encouraging that as we approach the summer, and we're nowhere near the summer yet, but there will be options out there. If we are competing top before the World Cup break, we should buy Bellingham and push for title this season, Mark, says Ramis. Yeah, that's not going to happen. United will try to waste the summer in talks with Dortmund, says America Deuce. I mean, and also, just going back to the Jude Bellingham story for a minute, you've got to also factor in what I just said there. Would Ten Hag want Man United to battle for Jude Bellingham for £100 million, which is basically all of his budget? Or will he say, I need a goalkeeper, I need a right back, I'd like another centre back, I need a striker, of which Jude Bellingham is none of those things. So sometimes you've got to look at a deal, and I certainly, look, my opinion in relation to Bellingham, just to close it off, and even if we talk about it again tomorrow or next week or whenever, there's another development, because there will be developments around Bellingham, we know that's going to happen. My stance on Bellingham is this. 1, we've got no chance at the moment, and we won't have any chance unless we're in the top 4 and we're progressing in April. And secondly, I'm not convinced it's the right player we should be buying next summer anyway. We've got Casemiro, McTominay's doing a lot better, we've got Eriksen. Yes, Bellingham improves that midfield, but we'd be spending most of our budget on one player again, and I believe that we need another right back. We probably need another goalkeeper. I think we need another centre back. We need a striker. We potentially need another winger as well. So I think that sometimes you've got to do what's better for the team, haven't you? Anyone paid Bellingham his £1 million release clause, says Josh Thomas. It was a bit of a bloody nightmare start to my FIFA career mode today, wasn't it, actually? But I'm enjoying it, and I can't wait to play tomorrow. I'm upset you're not doing the Portugal match. Watch along, Mark. Sad, says A2. Well, I saw Ricky say that it was Delo wasn't playing. I've got to be honest, I'm all international breakout, and I think it's good that it's not just Portugal who are playing tonight. It's also you've got Argentina. I think they might have already played, actually. Let me just give you an update on that. So you've got Portugal playing tonight, and you've got Brazil playing as well. I think they may have already played. Obviously, it's Portugal against Spain tonight. and Bruno and Ronaldo both playing, so it's good. And it's a good game as well. Spain have picked a good team in that. Just to give you the latest on that, that's about 40 minutes in and it's 0-0. Brazil are playing as well. They're at half-time and they are beating Tunisia. In the lineups, you've got Casemiro playing with Fred, and I believe Anthony is on the bench there, so he probably will get on at some point. But yes, he's playing as well. And I think Argentina, if I'm correct, are playing a little bit later on tonight. Yes, they're playing at 1 o'clock in the morning against Jamaica. So there we go. There's your update on that. But World Cup will be with us soon, but we've got Premier League football and Europa League football and everything else to play over the next few weeks, where I think this season will be dictated to, won't it? There's no need to buy Bellingham. We have Mainu coming through. He looks to be a fantastic talent, says Gigi. And that's a good point as well. There will be young players that come through. We've got some really good young players, and maybe 1 or 2 of those will come through. Ten Hag will certainly try and develop players, and he will want to put his stamp on the team with his own developmental youth players as well. But yeah, let's have a look at this Tammy Abraham thing. Interestingly, we've had a few thousand votes on this, and yes, 60% and no, 40%. I think we'll just have to suck it up and see when it comes to Tammy Abraham. Let's wait and see what happens. The summer will dictate what we go for. But as I said, I think the positives are that there will be some options out there. I'm really looking forward to, I'm hoping as well, that if you look at the last summer transfer window, Malacia, De Jong, Anthony, Martinez, Eriksson, there's a touch point with either the Netherlands or Ten Hag or Ajax with all of those players. I don't think, we already know that Ten Hag didn't have any time to scout players because he only got the job in May. And we also know that the scouted players that Man United had scouted, he wasn't happy with. I'm looking forward to seeing over the next, obviously we don't know what conversations he's had this summer, this international break with the club, but we know that he will be having conversations with the scouts about where they need to go and what they need to go and find. I'm hoping that to Ajax and buys a Timber. I don't mind if he still wants De Jong next summer, but I'd like to see us picking up a winger from the French league or Bundesliga or something like that. I'd like to see how Ten Hag scouts and what he sends his scouts out to look for. I think that would be interesting for next summer. Tammy was sold for 35 million, so we would have to spend at least 70 million, says Alex. Well, the price tag will be interesting. I agree with that. I believe Chelsea may have some sort of release, a buyback clause or something like that as well. So price is always going to dictate what we think about it. If you said to me, would I pay £70 million for Tammy Abraham? No, I wouldn't. But hypothetically, would I be interested in him coming to United? I do think that he has got some qualities. And sorry, Luke, I don't like those sort of things, so you're gone. You know who you are. And I guess we'll have to wait and see. Abraham, no way. Don't want him, says Malps. I wish you'd told us why. Reels asked us a question: De Gea leave or stay? That's an interesting one. Get rid of you, Liverpool CF as well. Mark, how confident are you in United's defence on Sunday? Well, we're going to be building up to that, of course. And Greek says, don't mind Tammy, but I'd prefer Gakpo. Tammy will stay in Roma, says Amazing Vincent. And Zidane Iqbal will be a United stalwart, says Rosanette. I'm looking forward to see what happens with Zidane Iqbal and also what happens with Charlie Savage as well, because I think there's potential for both of those players. I think we'd be very lucky if both of them are Man United first team players in 3 or 4 years' time. But I certainly expect that both of those players will have a good future at Manchester United. And sorry, I've put too much on that. I expect both those players will have a good future in football. It'll be very interesting to see how they develop under Ten Hag, because we know he can be ruthless. What did you have for dinner? I had macaroni cheese. I think for 40 or 50 million pounds, Tammy Abraham would be a good signing, says Magu. Yeah, probably, but probably wouldn't get him for that. Have you heard of Kobe Mainu? Yes, I think most of our fans have heard of him. Youth player playing in the midfield. We don't want to put too much pressure on these players, but let's hope that they come through. And do you think Vlahovic is suitable to Stratford Rising? Well, again, I think this is what when it comes to strikers, Ivan Toney, there's that guy from Benfica that's been mentioned, Ramos. You mentioned Vlahovic at Juventus there. We've mentioned Tammy Abraham here. The thing that makes me quite comfortable is that I don't think we're going to go out and buy an Erling Haaland or a Darwin Núñez for 80, 100 million pounds or anything like that. I think the striker that we buy next summer is going to be somebody like the players I've mentioned, or a Jonathan David or someone like that. Somebody that you're going to get for around 50 million quid. And the interesting thing about that is it's about coaching, isn't it? If you buy a striker for 50 million quid, they're not shit and they're not superstar. They're in the middle. And this is where I think Ten Hag has already proven in his career, and is already proving at Manchester United, that he can be quite successful. So I would be looking at a player like that. I would be looking at a player like that, and I would be trusting Eric Ten Hag to go for the right one. And Tyler says Ivan Toney, and Liam Parker says he'd take Tammy Abraham. You've got people like Vlahovic as well. There are players out there, and ultimately that's the sort of profile of striker I think we'll be going for two reasons. One, I'm not so sure we'd have the budget to go and spend £100 million on a striker these days. And secondly, I also think that there isn't really a striker that's like that. We knew this time last year that Erling Haaland was going to be this big superstar signing. And lo and behold, it happened the following summer. Darwin Núñez came sort of out of nowhere, and that can happen. But this moment in time, you tell me a striker that's going for 100, 150 million quid next summer. There isn't one. And there probably won't be one, because it's very unlikely someone's just going to come out of nowhere and become that. But there's quite a few that you'd go, they're going to go for about 50, 60 million. And that's, I think, where United have got to go for somebody. Speak to Ten Hag, and if he goes, look, if you're asking me out of Vlahovic, Toney, Abraham, Jonathan David, and whoever else, I want this one. And that's what you've got to go and get. And then you've got to hope that his coaching and suitability for that player for the United works out. The only way we'll get Bellingham is if we qualify for the Champions League next season, and Gakpo is my preferred choice, says Jack Lynch. And Gakpo is a player that I just don't mention, although I did mention him yesterday, because he is a player that you've got to consider. You've got to consider Gakpo and Timber, because they are players that really do suit us. I think he may play McTominay and Casemiro. When are you talking about that, mate? Why are you talking about that? 1 minute, I need to just send this message. Oh, God, why can I never type under pressure? God, that's 3 times. I think he may play McTominay and Casemiro. I think you're talking about in the derby, aren't you? Mark, did you see the US players saying they hope Maguire starts against them in the World Cup, says Elliot Wallace? No, I didn't. But just on that, I mean, look, I just, you know, I've seen a few things today, and of course, every fan base has its one-upmanship, and we know that Manchester United have got it. We're no different to anybody else. We're no different to society. Some people just want to see the world burn. Some people just want to slate people. Some people just want to make lies up about people, be toxic and inflammatory and all that stuff. We see that on a daily basis. Of course we do. Napoli striker Osimhen will go for 100 million. Yes, good point, Nick. But I really do just want to say and defend United fans here that there's almost like a... I don't know whether you've noticed it. I've certainly noticed it in the last sort of 24 hours as well. There seems to be certain elements of football fans at the moment that are just sticking up for Maguire now because they feel sorry for him. And there's a really good quote, actually, and I'm going to read it for you here, because it comes from Jamie Carragher, and he said Maguire had... No, that's not the one I'm on about. Where was it? Jamie Carragher. Where did he say it? When I watched Maguire... This is a direct quote from Carragher. When I watched Maguire in the last 2 games, I felt sorry for him. But that is not a good look for any sports person. Sympathy will not get him back where he was 2 years ago. Now, that's Jamie Carragher, who He's a pundit now, but has played football for Liverpool for many years, also a centre-back. And I think that it's very important. I don't necessarily think an ex-player has a better opinion than anybody else, but he is a pundit who absolutely cannot come out and say Maguire is a bag of shit and should be sold to Swindon. Like, he has to be constructive. But actually, he is acknowledging there that feeling sorry for an England footballer is not really useful for anybody. It's not a good look for any sports person, is what Carragher says. Sympathy is not going to get him back where he was 2 years ago. And he basically said that, you know, that his perception of Maguire at the moment is he's walking around like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. And it's not a good look. And then you've got people who are now just saying, leave him alone, I feel sorry for him. And I'm like, I'm just going to defend the United fan base a little bit here. It wasn't United fans that booed Harry Maguire. It was England fans who booed Harry Maguire. And it's certainly not United fans who are giving him abuse at the moment, because, as I said, before the international break, I do the United stand. I see all your comments. I'm on social media a lot. Nobody was talking about Harry Maguire until the article came out in the ESPN last Thursday with some stupid idiot close to him, apparently, talking nonsense and bringing him onto the front pages. No United fan was talking about Maguire until then, because he's on the bench because Varane and Martinez are better than him, and everyone was like, well, that's the right way that's the way it should be. Varane and Martinez are better than him, and if he wants to get back in the team, he's got to work hard. And that was it. I wasn't waking up every morning and going on Twitter and seeing people go, Maguire's a bloody this and that, and Maguire should be sold and this, that and the other. People were just like, it's chill. Ten Hag has given him a chance. He's not better than Varane and Martinez. He's on the bench. He's got to work hard to get his place back. End of story. Goes on international duty. Stupid article comes out. Silly quotes come out over the weekend about I was the best player in the tournament in Euros and all this. Crap performance against Germany, as everybody saw. And suddenly it's like, oh, I feel sorry for him and this, that and the other. Now, Jamie Carragher's right. It's not a good look. It's not a good look when people are feeling sorry for you. It's not a good look as United fans when we haven't won a title for 10 years and people start, Liverpool fans down the pub or wherever you are, start going, you know what, it was fun at first, but I actually feel sorry for you now because it used to be good when you were near the top competing. It's not a good look to have people feeling sorry for you. And I think Carragher is right. And I also I'm getting a little bit tired of this cycle of player plays badly and then we ultimately have this sympathy vote for them because they're getting a load of criticism. And I think Luke Shaw's the prime example. I think Scott McTominay's the prime example of two players that have had a lot of stick and criticism, but in their own different ways have just got their head down, acknowledged it and worked hard to get back. And that's the path for Harry. I think that's what Carragher's saying. The sympathy vote is not a good look. And sympathy is not going to get you back playing like you did 2 years ago. If we all just said, right here, right now, everybody, let's go and clap for Harry Maguire outside now. We're all going to do it at 9 o'clock tonight. We're going to go outside and clap for Harry Maguire. And he's going to hear those claps and he's going to feel really good about himself. If that was going to work and that was going to make him as good as he was 2 years ago, we'd all go and do it. But it's not, is it? What's going to get him back to there is him closing down the noise and focusing on his football. Because I have praised Maguire in the past, and I do believe that he's a player that we shouldn't be selling at the moment because we can't, and also he's a player that we need because we need to have a squad. What Maguire needs to do is, and I've said it so many times, and every United player needs to do this, and we've seen players who've left the club who had this problem as well, forget about the PR. Forget about trying to... It's a mistake to try and make people like you in football because of what you do off the pitch. Rashford's had that problem as well. Rashford's done amazing things off the pitch and it didn't stop people saying last year, sell him, he's not good enough for United. So the lesson is there. You can do great things off the pitch, charity work, interviews, brilliant, well done, crack on with it. But that won't make you liked on the pitch. Because people don't like you off the pitch because of who you are. They don't like you on the pitch because of how you play football. And I think this is something where we're going wrong and people aren't understanding it. Trying to make people like you on the pitch by doing good things off the pitch, it's not going to work, because people don't dislike you off the pitch. They dislike you on the pitch because of how you play football. So how do you solve that? You've got to play well on the pitch. That's what your focus should be. Like, we all know the world we live in. There are some horrible people out there. You know, I've just had a weekend where, you know, it's blown up everywhere because of the stuff I did. But even amongst that, there was some vile, horrible stuff, because that's what the world is. People say that it's worse now, but I actually think we all know what social media is. If I was having a chat with Harry Maguire or any United player or any footballer, I'd say, look, it's not nice when you get stuff on social media, but we all know what social media is. It's very good, but there's also a percentage of people who are just very sad individuals who know that they can do things without recourse. You think about David Beckham after the 98 World Cup. Somebody did a dummy of him with his shirt on and hung it off a bridge in London. People will say, well, it's worse now because people can say horrible things about you on Twitter. But we all know what Twitter is. It's good, but there's also idiots on there. Imagine what it was like for Beckham when social media didn't exist and you're just seeing pictures on the front page of the paper with somebody of your, basically a mimic of you, being hung from a bridge. That's vile. And there is vile stuff on social media as well, but it's not new. There are vile people out there, and there always will be. And, you know, I think that if that is affecting you or any footballer, then they need people to have that conversation we've just had there, that, you know, in life, you need to focus on the good people, because there's horrible people out there. You're never going to get 100% people say, oh, he's absolutely amazing. There's always critics, and there's always vile critics. I think it's dangerous when we go down, and I think Carragher's absolutely nailed it, and he doesn't always nail, but I think he has nailed it when he's saying things like, you know, it's not a good look when you're feeling sorry for a sports person, because sympathy's not going to get you back where you need to be. Competitive sport is about competition and belief and confidence. You're not going to get that back with sympathy cards. You're going to get that from within and hard work. And, you know, what do sprinters do when they're going to run 100 metres? What do boxers do when they're going to fight for the title? Do they go on Twitter and have a Q&A? You know, they don't. They go in a tunnel. They're tunnel visioned. I'm going to win this race. I'm going to win this fight. And look, I'm not just talking to Harry Maguire here at all. But what I'm saying is, at elite sports, you've got to get your mind right. You've got to block out the external noise. Even if you won the Ballon d'Or, there'd be people saying, how have you won that instead of Mbappe? Like, he's crap. You're always going to get that. It's about mentality. And he's got to get his head down, work hard. He'll be playing in the World Cup. Whether you like it or not, he will play in the World Cup. And that's a carrot to dangle. You know, you're going to play in the World Cup. You're going to start in the World Cup, no matter what you do. Even if you don't kick a ball for Man United for the next month, you're still going to play in the World Cup. So there's a lot to focus on there. Mark Holder says, against City, would you play Casemiro and McTominay? I have mentioned it before, mate. Chuck your questions in. I have mentioned it before, and I'm not doing Portugal versus Spain as a watch-along. I struggle to do England games. I'm not going to start doing meaningless Nation Leagues games just because the United players playing. And also, I'd probably find it quite nervous every time there was a tackle. I'd rather not. At some point, Casemiro is going to end up in that team, but if you play Casemiro and McTominay, who are you dropping? Eriksen or Bruno? Like, you can't play Casemiro, McTominay, Eriksen and Bruno unless you completely change how Ten Hag's played a diamond, which I don't know. He might have a master plan for that game, but I'd like the idea of McTominay and Casemiro playing. I really would. I think we need some... Look, I've said it on the Sunday night show. I'll say it again now. If you can give me Casemiro from the Champions League final against Liverpool, he's one of the first names on the team sheet on Sunday. But I don't know whether he's ready to do that in the Premier League yet. Because he's 100 times better than McTominay. He's 100 times better than most CDMs in world football. But I'd like the idea of both of them playing. I don't know whether he would do that. Honestly, hasn't Maguire's mentality been off since his legal problems in Greece, says Stephen? Though it's not our job to speculate on that, mate, but you could arguably pinpoint it back to then. That was just after the Euros. Yeah, you probably could. Look, there's always a reason. There's always a reason, and I don't think Maguire. When did that happen? Was it straight after the Euros, or was it before the year before the Euros? I can't remember. I'd need the timeline of that, but we're speculating anyway. Beckham had hate, but he shut them up on the pitch, says Elliot Wallace. It's a mentality thing. You've got to have the right people around you, and I know from that, you've got to have the right people around you, because when you're getting shit and hate and people are attacking you unfairly or fairly or whatever, if you can sink under that. You can sink under that, and then everything becomes difficult. Your family life, your life, your mentality, depression, mental health, it all starts to spiral. Anybody in the public eye is going to get criticism, and especially when you're not performing, or especially when other people, you're taking other people's spots in football teams, you're going to get it. Unfortunate, but you are going to get it. And if you let it consume you, it's going to consume you. I think you've got to, and not everybody can do it, but you've got the path has always been to perform on the pitch. I mean, I can't praise Scott McTominay enough. I don't necessarily think he's an amazing footballer, but he is a lot better this season than he was last year. And I don't think many of us thought that would happen. He's getting no criticism at all because he's playing well for Man United. I mean, I would say this even if nobody had done it. I'd still say if Maguire starts playing well, the critics will shut up. But we've actually got a blueprint of it. We have the blueprint. Scott McTominay's done it. He was terrible last year. Absolutely terrible. Everyone had had enough of him. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. Hiding away, hardly on the ball, passing it sideways, not contributing with goals or assists. So many goals coming from the midfield defensively. Awful season last year. Then this season, he's getting the praise and no one's saying anything about him. That's your blueprint. That's your blueprint for any United player that's not in the team at the moment and feels that they're getting unfair criticism. Hi Mark, would love to buy you a pint and chat about football when I'm in the UK, says Derek. Sounds very, very, very good, Derek. Our topic, will you do a watch along of World Cup final if England isn't playing in it? Well, I always do, colour. So, yeah. Tashi, thank you very much for your super chat. Chris says, I gave McTominay loads of grief, but even I can't slander him this season so far. He's gotten his head down and improved. And that's it. This is where I defend United fans. Because I've seen people today saying, I feel really sorry for Harry, we should all just get behind him. And I'm like, but I defend the United fans, the majority of United fans on this, because we weren't talking about him. We weren't talking about Maguire at the start of the international break. We'd won 4 games in a row in the Premier League. Martinez and Varane were doing fantastically well. Maguire was on the bench, waiting for his opportunity, and everything was good with the world. Maguire knew he had to work hard and was probably not very happy, but Varane and Martinez were better than him. We go on this England international break. That stupid interview comes out from this bloody source. He then says a few things that he probably shouldn't have said. Has a crap game against Germany, and suddenly Maguire's getting a load of abuse again. But it's not United fans. United fans were already comfortable with the situation. He wasn't in our team, so we don't need to go, oh, he's shit, this, that and the other. He shouldn't be playing for Man United, because he wasn't. He wasn't. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not that much of an England fan that I give a shit about who starts at centre-back. And I know most Man United fans are like that. So it's a weird one, because everyone's sort of going, oh, I feel sorry for him, Well, are you going to play him in the derby? No. So what are you talking about, you feel sorry for him? Write him a card then, you might appreciate it. But it's not United. We're not talking about it. I know we're talking about it now because it's a recurring conversation that's been going on for the last 3 or 4 days, but we weren't talking about it. So it's not United fans that are abusing or whatever like that, because we're not. The situation is fine. He's on the bench. Varane and Martinez are starting, and it's his job to play well and work himself back in the team. Get on with it. Let's see what you can do. Happy days. The reason this is all going on is because of his England place, because people think he shouldn't have been playing for England, and then he's had a bad game for England. Get good, says Pre. It's simple as that. Which team do you think will win the World Cup, says Pilly? Well, you know what? I think it's going to be a very interesting World Cup. I'm looking forward to it. I'm not expecting anything from England, but you never know. You just don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if we did grind our way to a semi-final again. But I did think France, but I'm not so sure. Brazil, I don't know whether they're a bit hyped. The good thing is, I think it will be a very interesting World Cup because there's not really a massively standout team, and that could mean it's a really open tournament. You don't want 2 or 3 standout amazing teams. Hi Mark, are you doing your all-day streaming day this year? Loved last year's and was a worthy cause, says Glenn. Yep, so every November I do an all-day stream where I try and raise money for people with terminal illness, and last year we did it in November and we raised just over £30,000. We're going to go again. We're going to try and do it again. And I think the best time for me to do it is going to be the time I normally do it, which is around the late teens of November. So my recollection is that the World Cup starts on, let me have a look, World Cup, Willie, red, white and blue, World Cup, Willie. So Qatar against Ecuador is on the 20th of November, so that's a Sunday. So I will do my all-day charity stream on the 19th of November. So we're good to go. Hi, Mark. Are we still playing Ollie formation? Did Eric Ten Hag use the same at Ajax? No, we're not, David. There's very, very little. There's very little similarity between what Ten Hag is doing with Man United and what Solskjaer did. Ten Hag is playing counter-attacking football, but he is not playing it how Solskjaer did. Southgate's similar to Solskjaer. Get people behind the ball, hit on the break with quick transitions from back to front and try and exploit the space. Ten Hag will do that, but is also about hitting on the break with possession as well. If you look at some of the goals we've scored, they've been 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, sometimes more passing movements. So there's a bit more patience in what we're doing. But yeah, we are building from the back because when you get beat 4-0 by Brentford, and Brighton beat you at home, you've got to sort your defence out, and that's what he's done. And I think against Man City, I think it's not a spoiler alert. We're not going to go to Man City and play a high line and try and keep them in their own half. They've got a very, very quick number 9 who'd love us to do that as well. I mean, Man City are a different team now. If you try and play a high line against Man City, which to be honest nobody does because it's completely stupid, you can't press Man City high up the pitch and dominate the possession. It's virtually impossible. And if you did do that, they'll knock a ball over the top for Haaland. So we're not going to do that at the Etihad, and nobody will. So what we're going to do at the Etihad is we are going to play a little bit deeper. We are going to be a bit more compact, and but we've got to have the ability to keep the ball at times, and we've got to have the ability to hurt them as well. So yeah, we're not going to see. I mean, as I said, we had Ben Foster on a couple of weeks ago, and he says he doesn't think that we'll see the Ajax Man United style of playing for maybe 18 months. I think it will happen sooner than that, but it's certainly not going to happen on Sunday. Mark, your impact on the YouTube All-Stars was amazing. Speed and Co was brilliant. Well done, says Nick. Thank you very much. Chris says, Southgate stroke Ollie ball, defend for your lives and pray for that moment of brilliance. Yeah. What would you like to see at the end of these 6 weeks, says James. That's a cracking question. Get your questions in. So, where are we in the Premier League at the moment? I think that's probably going to be my first point of answering that question. So, I know that I need to look at it over the next couple of days, but I know that we've got Man City away and Everton away. If we could take 4 points from those first 2, I'd be very, very happy. And we're currently in 5th place with 12 points. And obviously Man City, Spurs and Arsenal have played a game more than us, so they're 5 and 6 points ahead of us. Look, I'm not going to individualise the games, but to be honest with you, if we could be 6 points off the top by the time we break for the World Cup, I'd be over the moon. I think that's a hard ask. But if we can be 6 points off the top, and I don't care what position we are, we could be 2nd, we could be 6th, I don't care. But if we can be 6 points off the top and in the Champions League spots going into the World Cup, I think that gives us a very, very positive place to come back at Christmas on Boxing Day and go again for the rest of the season. So that's what I'm hoping for. Look, we're not title contenders, and many of us didn't even predict we'd get top four. So I think a good position for United to be in. And I think it is a great question, because we are sort of going into this mini season now where we're playing 13 games in 6 or 7 weeks, and then the World Cup comes and we have a break for a month. So this season's a weird season where it's been done in blocks. We had that block of games before this international break. We've now got a big block of games until the World Cup, and then we've got a big block of games after. So I think if we can be 6 points off the top and in the top four when the World Cup breaks, I'd take that. What do I think will happen? I think we might have to settle for being within 2 or 3 points of top four, which still wouldn't be terrible. But in an ideal world, I'd like the latter. It's going to be difficult, though. It is going to be difficult, because I think somebody just said there, what are our actual fixtures for Manchester United in the Premier League? And that they go like this. So we've got Man City Man City away. Then we've got Everton away. Then we've got Newcastle at home, Spurs at home, Chelsea away, West Ham at home, and then I think we've got Fulham at home, and Villa potentially as well. So yeah, the October's not easy, is it? Man City away, Everton away, Newcastle at home, Tottenham at home, Chelsea away, West Ham at home. You'd want to take a lot of points from that, but Phil McCracken says more like 6 points off the bottom, and I realise what I've just said there. Every season, whoever on top of the league in Christmas Day go on to win the league, says Antonio. And how many points do you think we'll get in the next 5 games? Do you think we win over City and Spurs? I think Spurs will be difficult. I think Chelsea will be difficult. I think Man City will be difficult, which leaves Everton and Newcastle as must-win games, doesn't it? So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But I'm looking forward to it. I've always been like that, haven't I? And I know a lot of you are similar as well. I'd rather be playing Man City away than playing Bournemouth at home. I just think, yeah, it'd be nice to get 3 points against Bournemouth. Not guaranteed, to be fair. But these are the games where you learn. And I'm not going into that Man City game with any fear, or Chelsea, or Spurs. And let's not forget, we have beaten Arsenal and Liverpool already. So we've played all the top 5 by the middle of October, basically. And this is where you learn. This is where you learn. You learn about where you are as a football club. I'm looking forward to playing this Man City game because they are the best team in England. They are the title holders. Where are we? I vividly remember last season playing Liverpool twice and Man City twice and knowing we were miles off. And I think that's going to be a very interesting thought to hold. Think about that over the next few days. Last season was our worst ever Premier League season. When we played Liverpool at Anfield and at Old Trafford, it was humiliating. When we played Man City at the Etihad and Old Trafford, it was humiliating. I know Man City didn't batter us as much as Liverpool did, but the way that they dominated us was as humiliating. They were 4 total and utter humiliations. What if those humiliations were down here? What are you expecting on Sunday? Because you're almost asking for the impossible. Let's go from total humiliation to beating the title holders at their own ground. There will be an improvement on Sunday. It might be that we still get beat 2 or 3-0, but we play better. It might be that we get a draw, which would be great. It might be that we pull off a win. But I think you've got to temper where we were and where we are. And as long as there's progression on Sunday, I think that is the main thing. For me, it's not what the result will be, it's how big the progression will be. Because I'm expecting progression because we've seen it already. But we are playing a very good Man City side. It'll be hungry and we might lose. But that doesn't mean that, oh, we're rubbish, let's make changes, or Ten Hag's not the man. We're going from rock bottom. Let's see what happens on Sunday, but I'm very excited about it. I think the scoreline could be anything, Bailey. I think we could get a draw. I would take a draw now. I don't normally say that, but I think a draw would be a real step forward for United. I'd bloody love the win, but this Man City side's good. If they get an early goal, it'll be a long afternoon. We've got to shut them out for half an hour, and there's not many teams who can do that. So, yeah, we will see what happens. But I'm very, 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 very excited about it. Really, really am. Mark, why is it hard to find players with both a character and quality like Keane, Vieira, Cantona nowadays? football feels boring and robotic, says Amit. I can give you that answer. I can give you that answer very, very quickly because I've spoken to some of those players about it. And I remember speaking to Paul Ince about this as well. Basically, these characters, these Roy Keanes, these Steven Gerrards, these Eric Cantonars, these Patrick Vieiras, these Paul Inces, these players were like that because their upbringings were tough. And I think it's a society thing. I really do. Those footballers then had a different upbringing to footballers now. You speak to someone like Gary Neville, when he was an apprentice at United, he was probably cleaning the boots of the first team players on a YTS scheme wage or something like that. 15, 16-year-olds at major clubs now, they ain't cleaning people's boots. They're sorting out boot deals. They've been promised this, that, and the other to go to these clubs. It's a different world, and that's not a bad thing, but that different world generates different characters in the game. So, I was thinking about this a few years ago. I totally agree with that question. My saying is, where have all the cowboys gone? Because, you think about, it's just a saying, isn't it? Where have all the heroes gone? And it's because we don't really generate those types of players now, because those types of players are fighters. They're fighters. They play like it's, if they don't win, they're not going to get a meal. They're hungry, and it's hard to do that with the modern young players coming through because it's a different world. They're not having to earn a pittance and clean people's boots and stuff like that now. It's just different. So it's a real rarity to create a Roy Keane or anyone like that anymore, because, and also the game's changed a little bit as well. I do agree with what Matic said to a certain extent, that most of Roy Keane's tackles would be a yellow card now, but that doesn't mean you can't be that type of a player. Charlie says the Butcher. Martinez is quite interesting, but you know what? Why would a Martinez be like that? Because actually in Argentina and Brazil, you still do get players that grow up in poverty and have to fight for their chance. There's plenty of stories about Argentinian players and Brazilian players like that playing on the beach or, the streets. So maybe that's the place you find those types of players now, because we don't seem to be able to produce them in England anymore, which is a shame. Anyway, Abdullah says, I'm kind of in the middle with the Maguire criticism. I feel a bit of sympathy for him, but he does deserve the criticism. He's been very poor and should leave now. You know what? I don't really want to talk about it anymore, because ultimately, ideally, I want people to stop talking about Maguire, and I want Maguire to focus on his own game, and it's the noise. It's like a volume. Just turn it down. We weren't talking about him. Man United fans weren't talking about him until the back end of last week, when that article came out and he had the bad performance, obviously, last night. We weren't talking about him. He's a bench player who's lost his place to better players, and he's got to work hard to get it back. Turn it down. I don't want to see people slagging him off or be abusing any player, and I certainly don't want to see it happening with a Man United player. But criticism's fine, but we shouldn't even be criticising him now. He's not been playing for United. Turn it down. Let him focus on getting himself back playing well. That's what needs to happen. All this noise has happened because of this England thing, the articles and stuff. Just turn it down. We don't need to talk about it anymore. He's not playing against Man City, is he? That's what we want to talk about from now on. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I've got some good videos for you tomorrow. Make sure you check it out. Sneak. Scan the QR code. You can do that with your phone. Links in the description. Sneak energy drinks. Please use the code SneakBridge because it helps the channel. You can get one of these and 9 different sachets to try it out as part of a starter pack. And they've got 40 serving tubs, fizzy drinks, the lot, delivered to your door. Next day delivery in the UK. Check it out. Low calorie, sugar free energy drinks. Cherry Bomb I was on. Thanks everyone for watching. Speak to you in a bit.